I can still smell the antiseptic and rubber from that hospital hallway. Not the sharp, clean scent of the emergency room where they'd brought me in 6 hours earlier, but the heavy institutional smell of the rehabilitation wing where they'd just told me I'd never walk again. I was 16 years old, and I was about to learn that the accident that shattered my spine wasn't the worst thing that would happen to me that day. What I'm about to tell you is the story of how I lost my legs at 16, lost my family the same week, and found out what real strength actually means in the most unexpected place. The accident happened on a Tuesday. My brother Jake was driving me home from swim practice. He was on the varsity team, captain actually, with college scouts already watching. Jake was texting. I saw the red light. I screamed. Then there was metal and glass and pain and nothing. When I woke up 3 days later, my mother was sitting in the corner of the hospital room, but she wasn't looking at me. She was on her phone. My father stood by the window, arms crossed. The doctor, Dr. Reynolds, was a tall woman with kind eyes that couldn't quite hide the devastation she was about to deliver. Emily, she said gently, pulling up a chair next to my bed. The impact compressed your spinal cord at the T10 vertebra. We did everything we could, but the damage was permanent. You're going to need extensive rehabilitation, and you'll need to use a wheelchair. I remember the words hit me like the car had hit us all over again. Never walk. Wheelchair. Forever. I was 16. I had a scholarship offer from Stanford. I was going to swim in the Olympics. How could this be real? How much is this going to cost? Those were the first words my father spoke. Not "Are you okay?" Not "We'll get through this." Not "We love you." Just how much? Dr. Reynolds' face tightened. The immediate surgical costs have been covered by insurance, but Emily will need months of intensive physical therapy, occupational therapy, home modifications for wheelchair accessibility, adaptive equipment, ballpark figure, my father interrupted. Between the therapy, home renovation, specialized equipment, and ongoing care, you're looking at $60,000 to $80,000 over the next year. Possibly more. My mother made a sound. Not a gasp. Not a cry. Just this small, disgusted noise like someone had told her the restaurant was out of her favorite wine. That's impossible, my father said flatly. We just took out a second mortgage for Jake's athletic academy fees. His recruitment is critical this year. He's got scouts from Duke and Notre Dame. We can't. He stopped, looked at me for the first time since I'd woken up, and I saw it. The calculation, the weighing, the decision. What are you saying? My voice came out small, broken. What we're saying, my mother stood up, smoothing her designer blouse, is that we have to make difficult choices. Jake's future is on the line. He's worked so hard, and now this. She gestured at me like I was a stain on the carpet. This accident changes everything. Jake was driving. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was texting and he ran a red light. This is his fault. Don't you dare blame your brother. My mother's voice went ice cold. He feels terrible. This has been so hard on him. Do you know he might lose his scholarship opportunities because of the stress? The guilt? I stared at her. I was lying in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the waist down, and she was worried about Jake's stress. Dr. Reynolds stood up. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, perhaps we should discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss privately, my father said. Doctor, what are our legal obligations here? She's 16. What's the minimum we have to provide? The room went silent. Even the machines seemed to stop beeping. I'm sorry. Dr. Reynolds looked like she'd been slapped. If we can't afford her care, what happens? Foster care? State custody? What are the options? You're talking about abandoning your daughter. Dr. Reynolds' voice shook. Your daughter who was just catastrophically injured in an accident caused by your son. We're talking about reality, my mother snapped. We have a son with a future. A real future. What's she going to do now? She can't swim. She can't walk. She's going to need help for the rest of her life. We didn't sign up for this. I started crying then. Ugly, choking sobs that made the machines beep frantically. Get out. Dr. Reynolds pointed at the door. Get out of this room right now. My parents left. They left me crying in that hospital bed, and I wouldn't see them again for 12 years. What I didn't know then was that someone else had been standing in the hallway, listening to everything. His name was Marcus Chen, and he was the physical therapist assigned to my case. Marcus was 38, Chinese American, with close-cropped black hair going gray at the temples and these incredibly strong, calloused hands. He'd been a Paralympic athlete himself, won bronze in wheelchair racing in Beijing before a shoulder injury ended his competing career. He walked into my room an hour after my parents left while I was still crying so hard I could barely breathe. "Hey," he said quietly, pulling up the chair Dr. Reynolds had abandoned. "I'm Marcus. I'm your PT. And I heard what just happened. They don't want me anymore," I sobbed. "I'm broken and they don't want me." "You're not broken." His voice was firm. "You're different now. There's a difference. And your parents are cowards and terrible people, and I'm sorry, but that's on them, not you." Over the next 3 days, Marcus came to see me every few hours. Not for therapy. Just to talk. He told me about his accident, about relearning everything, about the darkness he went through. "I tried to kill myself," he said bluntly on the 3rd day. "Twice. I thought my life was over. But then someone showed me it wasn't over. It was just different. And different can be beautiful." "How did you afford everything?" I asked. "The therapy, the equipment?" "I had help. People who believed in me." He paused. "Emily, I need to ask you something. Your parents filed for emancipation. They're signing over custody to the state. You'll go into foster care, probably a group home, and you won't get the therapy you need. The state funding for spinal cord injury rehab is minimal." "I know. I want to stop that from happening." I looked at him. "How?" "I want to be your foster parent. And eventually, if you want, adopt you." I stared at this man I'd known for 3 days. "Why?" "Because I was you 12 years ago. And someone saved me. Now it's my turn." He leaned forward. "I won't lie to you. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. Learning to live in a chair, rebuilding your strength, figuring out who you are now. But I will be there every single day. I will not leave. I will not give up on you. And I will show you that your life isn't over. It's just beginning." I cried again, but different tears this time. Marcus petitioned the court. My parents didn't contest it. They didn't even show up to the hearing. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman named Martinez, looked at my empty parents' seats and granted Marcus emergency custody on the spot. "Mr. Chen," she said, "I'm going to be watching this case closely. This young woman has been through enough." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. "She won't go through any more. Not on my watch." The next 8 months were hell. Beautiful, terrible, transformative hell. Marcus' apartment wasn't wheelchair accessible when I moved in. He'd put his entire savings into making it work. Ramps, widened doorways, a roll-in shower, grab bars everywhere. His living room became my bedroom because it was on the ground floor. Physical therapy was torture. My muscles had atrophied. My core strength was gone. Everything hurt all the time. There were days I couldn't get out of bed, days I screamed at Marcus that I hated him, hated therapy, hated my life. He never yelled back. He'd just sit next to my bed and say, "Okay, we'll try again tomorrow." But slowly, impossibly, things started to change. I learned to transfer from my chair to other surfaces. I learned to navigate curbs, ramps, stairs in my chair. I learned that my arms could become stronger than my legs ever were. Marcus taught me wheelchair basketball, then swimming again but different, using just my arms and core. I was weak at first, pathetic, but he never let me quit. "You were captain of your swim team," he'd say as I flailed in the pool. "You were a leader. That's still in you. Your legs don't make you a leader. Your heart does." 6 months in, he came home with paperwork. "What's this?" I ask. "Adoption papers. If you want. You don't have to decide now, but I want you to know I'm not going anywhere. You're not a foster case to me. You're my daughter if you'll have me." I signed that night. Marcus worked full-time as a PT but took on extra weekend shifts to pay for everything I needed. He never complained. Not once. When I got accepted into the adaptive sports program and needed a racing chair, he sold his car and bought a used one so he could afford my chair. "Marcus, you can't do that," I protested. "I can take the bus," he shrugged. "You need to fly." And fly I did. I started competing in wheelchair track at 17. I was terrible. Dead last in my first 3 races. But Marcus was at every single one, screaming himself hoarse from the sidelines. You finished, he'd shout. That's all that matters. You finished. By 18, I wasn't finishing last anymore. By 19, I was placing. By 20, I was winning. Marcus pushed me academically too. You're not just going to be an athlete, he'd say. You're going to change the world. What do you want to study? Biomedical engineering, I said. I want to design better equipment. Better chairs. Better prosthetics. He grinned. Then let's make it happen. I applied to MIT, Stanford, Berkeley. I got into all 3. Stanford gave me a full scholarship plus adaptive athlete funding. The day I got the acceptance letter, Marcus cried. I'd never seen him cry before. I knew you could do it, he whispered. I knew it from day one. I went to Stanford. I studied biomedical engineering. I competed for their adaptive sports team. I made the Paralympic team at 23 and won silver in the 400-meter wheelchair race in Paris. Marcus was in the stands, absolutely losing his mind with pride. But my real dream was bigger than medals. I wanted to start a company designing adaptive equipment that was actually affordable, actually accessible. Equipment that kids like I'd been could get without their parents having to choose between them and their siblings. At 27, I launched AdaptTech with 2 partners from my MIT graduate program. We designed wheelchair components using 3D printing to cut costs by 70%. We created adaptive sports equipment that sold at cost to schools and community programs. Within 3 years, we were worth $12 million. Within 5, we were valued at $80 million. I was on the cover of Forbes. The engineer who's revolutionizing adaptive technology. Marcus framed it and put it on his wall. And then came the invitation. The National Adaptive Sports Foundation was holding their annual gala in San Francisco. They wanted to honor me with their Innovator of the Year award. It was a huge deal. Olympic athletes would be there, celebrities, politicians, and it would be televised on ESPN. You have to go, Marcus said when I showed him the invitation. Will you come with me? Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this for anything. What neither of us knew was that my brother Jake had also been invited. He'd made it to the NFL, played 3 mediocre seasons as a backup quarterback, and was now doing commentary. He was being honored for his advocacy work in adaptive sports, which apparently meant he'd done 1 commercial encouraging people to donate. I found out 2 weeks before the gala when I saw the announcement. Jake Morrison would be presenting my award. I called Marcus, shaking. I can't go. Why not? Jake's going to be there. Presenting my award. I can't. I can't see him. I can't. Emily. Marcus' voice was calm, steady. You've spent 12 years building a life those people said you couldn't have. You've medaled in the Paralympics. You've built a company that's helping thousands of kids. You are going to that gala, and you are going to accept that award. And you are going to look your brother in the eye and show him exactly what he cost himself when his family threw you away. He was right. I went. The gala was at the Fairmont Hotel, absolutely stunning, full of people in expensive gowns and tuxedos. I wore a custom red dress and my everyday wheelchair, because I refused to pretend I was anything other than exactly who I was. Marcus wore a tux. He looked uncomfortable and amazing. I feel like a penguin, he muttered. You look like a dad at his daughter's awards ceremony. I grinned. We found our table near the front. And that's when I saw them. My parents. My mother in a designer gown, my father in an expensive suit, sitting 3 tables away. Jake was at the presenter's table on stage. My mother saw me first. Her face went absolutely white. Emily, Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. Breathe. They're here, I whispered. They're actually here. I know. And they're going to watch you win. The ceremony started. There were other awards, other speeches. I barely heard any of it. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Then Jake took the stage. He looked exactly like I remembered, just older, more polished, same arrogant smile. He started talking about the importance of adaptive sports, about how inspired he was by athletes who overcame adversity. The irony was crushing. And now, he said, reading from the teleprompter, It's my honor to present the Innovator of the Year award to someone whose work has truly changed the landscape of adaptive technology. Please welcome Emily Morrison, founder and CEO of AdaptTech. The room exploded in applause. I wheeled myself up the ramp to the stage, very aware that cameras were following my every move, that this would be on television, that thousands of people were watching. Jake's smile faltered when I got close enough for him to really see my face. Recognition dawned. Then panic. I took the award, a beautiful crystal sculpture, and wheeled to the microphone. "Thank you," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "This award means everything to me, but not for the reasons you might think. 12 years ago, I was in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. I was 16 years old. I was told I'd never walk again, never compete again, never amount to anything." The room was dead silent. My family made a choice that day. They decided I wasn't worth the investment. My parents literally signed papers giving up custody of me because my medical care was too expensive, because I was, and I quote, broken. I saw my mother stand up. My father grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back down. I ended up in the custody of my physical therapist, Marcus Chen, who's here tonight. I gestured to our table. Marcus was crying. Marcus wasn't rich. He sold his car to buy me my first racing chair. He worked double shifts to pay for equipment insurance couldn't cover. He sat in the stands at every single race, every single competition, even when I came in dead last. He helped me apply to colleges, helped me study for exams, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. My voice got stronger. Marcus taught me that family isn't about biology. It's about who shows up. It's about who stays when things get hard. It's about who sacrifices without asking for anything in return. I looked directly at my parents. And it's about who loves you not in spite of your challenges, but through them and with them. Emily. Jake tried to interrupt, but I kept going. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who was told they couldn't, who was abandoned, who was written off. And it belongs to the people who showed up for them anyway. So thank you, National Adaptive Sports Foundation. But the real thank you goes to my dad, Marcus Chen, the man who taught me that being in a wheelchair didn't make me broken. It made me unstoppable. The room erupted. Standing ovation. People were crying. The cameras caught everything. My parents frozen in their seats, Marcus sobbing openly at our table, Jake looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I wheeled off the stage without acknowledging Jake at all. After the ceremony, my parents tried to approach me in the lobby. Security stopped them, but I could hear my mother calling my name. "Emily. Emily. Please, we made a mistake. We were wrong. We want to talk." I wheeled around to face them one time. "Just once. I have nothing to say to you. You made your choice 12 years ago. You chose money over your daughter. You chose comfort over love. And now you have to live with that. We're your parents," my father said desperately. "We deserve. You deserve nothing." I was surprised how calm I felt. "You get nothing. You missed everything. You missed me learning to live again. You missed my graduations, my races, my successes. You missed me becoming someone worth knowing. And you missed having a daughter who might have forgiven you if you'd shown up literally any time in the last 12 years. But you didn't. You only showed up when I made it somewhere you could see. So now you get to watch from a distance and know exactly what you threw away." I wheeled away. Marcus was waiting by the door. "That was perfect," he said quietly. "Can we go home, Dad?" "Yeah, kiddo. Let's go home." 3 months later, Jake called me. I don't know how he got my number. "Emily," he said, and he was crying. "I'm so sorry. What I did, what they did, it was unforgivable." "Yes," I said. "It was. Can we talk? Can I explain?" "No." I kept my voice even. "You were 18, Jake. Old enough to know right from wrong. You were texting while driving. You paralyzed me. And then you watched our parents throw me away and you said nothing. You did nothing. You took their money, went to your academy, lived your life while I fought for mine. I know, and I hate myself for it." "Good. You should." I paused. "But Jake, I don't hate you. I don't hate any of you. I pity you. Because you chose wrong, and it cost you everything. You could have had a sister who loved you. They could have had a daughter who made them proud. Instead, you have nothing. You have money and football, and a sister who will never speak to you again. So live with that. I have. I hung up. He never called again. Life went on. Adaptech grew. We expanded internationally. I spoke at the UN about accessible design. I won gold at the next Paralympics. I met someone, fell in love, got married to an incredible woman who worked in adaptive education. Marcus walked me down the aisle. Both of us cried through the whole thing. When I was 32, I got a call from a social worker. My mother had stage 4 cancer. My father had dementia. Jake had burned through his NFL money and couldn't afford their care. They were asking if I would help. I said no. The social worker was shocked. But they're your parents. No, I said calmly. They were my parents. They made their choice. Now they get to live with it. Marcus was sitting next to me when I made that call. When I hung up, he just nodded. You okay? He asked. Yeah, Dad, I'm okay. And I was. Because I learned something those 12 years ago in that hospital room. I learned that the people who give you life aren't always the ones who teach you how to live it. I learned that family is about choice, about showing up, about love that doesn't come with conditions or price tags. I lost my legs at 16. I lost my biological family the same week. But I found something better. I found a father who taught me that real strength isn't about what your body can do. It's about what your heart refuses to give up on. I built a company worth $80 million. I won Olympic medals. I changed lives with my work. And I did it all without the people who said I wasn't worth saving. But more importantly, I did it with the one person who knew I was worth everything. Thanks, Dad. For choosing me when it was hard. For loving me when it cost you everything. For showing me that sometimes the family you choose is the family that saves you. That's the real victory. Not the medals or the money or the revenge. It's knowing that I'm loved, truly loved, by someone who chose to show up every single day for 12 years and counting. That's what winning actually looks like.